Okay, fine. You guys wore me down. I will finally concede. I have gotten enough nudges to do so. So today, you are all my little saltine crackers. And maybe indefinitely you will be as such. There, take the absurd nickname. New people coming in are like, okay, so today's message is going to require some patience, I think, definitely. What I'm picking up right away is you might feel bored or like it lacks at the beginning, but this could be another person's energy. I actually don't know. I guess just my thoughts here are stay with me, hear it out, give it a real chance. I'm just definitely feeling boredom, impatient energy. And also this could be a remnants of the supermoon we just experienced. That definitely caused a ton of restlessness in energy. So maybe just right now, it might be harder to hear a message. So take a few intentional moments to come back if that's the case. I'm really going to be filtering here right off the bat. This is about deep attachment. I definitely feel deep attachment in your energy. It doesn't have to be romantic, although for a lot of you, I definitely feel that. I think this will be regarding who you feel comes to your mind right away when I talk about this. But there is definitely a deeper message that I need to heavily filter for. So listen up. This is for a group of people who experience what I see here as a rather unique thing in connections. You might feel this very specific thing happens either repeatedly or recently. It really doesn't matter the depth or the length of the connection. The important thing here is Spirit is showing me there is a fundamental change that occurs in relationships for you specifically. Change is the big theme here. It doesn't matter if it's you or if it's this person or if it's both of you. What's really highlighted here is that change. Something changes. So this is a very specific archetype or soul that I need to get this to clearly. You might think that, okay, everyone changes at least a little bit in relationships, Salt. And I get that logic, like exposure to people just moves energy around. It's inevitable. But this is different. This is certainly different. This is a specific reality layering or timeline that comes through only through these connections. I'm seeing just like connections between multiple points of reality. It's like you are the intersect, you are the catalyst where things really change. People, yourself, situations, doesn't matter if it's you or others, the change is what's highlighted again. And so this isn't just a simple, okay, we all grow, we all change. This is really noticing you cannot enter something and not change what you touch. This is who you are. This is who this is for. And I'm seeing here, I mean, either you're aware of that or you're not, but it makes your experiences more confusing, more emotional, more loaded. You touch people and connect with them on such a deeper level that it's not just they simply miss you after you leave. And that's what's being shown here is like the message. It's a huge quote unquote missing energy, like a longing energy, but it's unique because the cards here and what Spirit is showing me is like, I need to clearly explain why this is not average missing. This is not average what we know longing to be. And so this message, I think, is going to talk about the other side, how the other side of your connection gets impacted by you and how they can't go back to how they were before you entered their lives. And I think maybe we think superficially about missing people. And maybe that's like the deeper message here is the way we understand longing, missing is very superficial in the physical. And this is going to talk about the more metaphysical things here, the more invisible. So to be concise, I do not want to waste anyone's time. If you feel you're different in a relationship, after a relationship, or you completely transform others in a relationship, or wild card, all of the above, my catalyst saltine babies, this is your message. Get comfy, buckle up. A lot of tarot, a lot of astrology is coming through today. So it'll be in the description for the newcomers, the new people who stayed. Even though I called you a saltine cracker and did not explain why, wow, you must be super cool. Welcome. I just want to let you know that I write a lot of novellas in the description. If you're confused after this reading, I try to clarify there. Just know I write that for you to alleviate the confusion at least a little bit. Okay, so a lot of differing astrology here, quite confusing too. Eighth house, the star, world, lots of major placements are coming through. I think the cleanest pull, the most charged one, is this Two of Wands and the North Node here. This really clarified the message's overall direction. Whoever this person is, they feel you expose them to what looks like another life. And maybe they can't articulate that feeling, but it is incredibly clear that there's a disconnect happening here with that. I think this is based on timelines I'm being shown, like multiple different reality points. You don't just give a typical companionship, a typical relationship. It's not like other connections maybe do in the superficial way. I feel like what happens here is you sit on this higher timeline and then you expose souls to the other side of that for a brief period of time while you're with them and they're with you. And so coming back to their side, they feel that disconnect more clearly. I guess in the energy world, we would call this catalyst energy. You're a purposeful archetype that reveals a different experience for a reason. That is your purpose, at least for now, at least for specific souls that you encounter. And just a really big side note here is I feel like people stick to, archetypes they identify with too long. So just know that you are changing archetypes as you ascend. So you won't always be a catalyst type. And so I felt the need to say that is like, you don't have to be this forever. There's different types of archetypes you can embody in a lifetime. The interesting thing here that's being emphasized is the after effects of being this energy type, what this means for this person and what exposing them to this reality is doing to them right now. For example, just so we can understand this, imagine experiencing a higher timeline that they got to touch with you and maybe they didn't have words for it. It was like this invisible energy, but then imagine that being removed abruptly. And that disconnect feeling. So what happened here is there's a result now where they're living this dull experience and they can't name it since everything happened invisibly. It didn't happen in conscious awareness what was going on. I had to pause because I knew there's a word for this energy coming through and I know that I need to ground it. There is a term that does support what Spirit is trying to convey here. It's a Jungian concept if you're familiar with Carl Jung. It's the only real thing that can ground this, I think. And it's pointing at this idea of like a shared thought form, a construct that is built together on an energy level, on an invisible level. That's what happened here. Again, leave this more in the description, the name, all that good stuff. So in the physical, you didn't have to like change this person. You didn't have to do anything crazy. You might have, that's possible here. But what really happened that's affecting them now is you built this thing together with them on this energy level, and they use that thing to perceive the world, to experience the world. It was like a lens. There's many different ways we can term this, we can coin this, but essentially it's not just becoming emotionally important to someone. It's creating a separate reality together and experiencing that through this separate creation. So for example, before you, simple things like their rituals, their routines, what they did on a daily basis may not have felt as alive as the experience through this thought form, through this shared creation, this invisible thing. I guess we could think about it like if we want to really visualize this, think of this as like a cloud you two both built together. And then you're using that cloud to see through things, to experience life with. It becomes your lens. And so it's not just like you build this thing and then it just exists. It's like, okay, now you perceive things through that thing you built. That's what we're talking about here. And it's only active during the connection. So we aren't just talking about, okay, this person is lonely, they miss someone, that it's superficial companionship. We are talking about this person cannot go back to experiencing that higher form of reality that they could only view through this lens, through this cloud that you two built together. And this thing leveled them higher, and leaving, physically removing yourself from their life, brought them back down to their regular level, brought them back down to their lower level. But now they're not able to experience it in the same way. It's causing distress. Like maybe before you, their lower reality was more tolerable because they didn't know any better. What's coming through is kind of like, this is a funny example. Spirit, I feel like, is being is being salty today or is being a little cheeky. I don't know why. The example here is experiencing wealth, like true wealth, but then going back to your normal or poverty life. Poverty then would be more distressing because you lived in luxury for a second. You saw certain things were possible. Things were more convenient. You didn't have to fight as hard. But poverty or the average life is fine before you experience those things. So that's what we're talking about here. That's the exact thing that's happening to them on an invisible level because, at least when you experience wealth and you go back, you know exactly what's wrong. This is more, they have no idea. So to be super frank, this person is just struggling, but not just in like a superficial way. Like we understand missing someone or longing for someone or wanting companionship or being lonely. That's not enough to describe this. This is a complete shift of their psychological safety in that lower timeline experience that they lived in before you. They were forced back into where they came from on an invisible level after the lens or thought form that you two built was removed, that was giving them an enhanced experience. So I think in the next part, I'm going to focus on you. There's a couple of things here about why you're a catalyst or why you hold this higher timeline for others. Overall, though, I think this first part was just describing this doesn't feel like heartbreak in the way we know heartbreak to be. This feels like losing access or contact with a version of reality that felt specifically reachable with you. And that's a deeper level of distress. That's something that's like unnameable. That's something that we'll talk about more, I think, in the next part, because it's just more profound and it doesn't have a clear answer like they're trying to find. There is very clear symbolism coming up here. It feels so heavy. I almost feel like this symbolism is also layered on this boredom theme that came up at the beginning. The visualization or the symbolism that's coming through is airports. Airports are very symbolic in nature. They represent transition spaces. And basically what I'm being shown is you are arriving at an airport and people are not responding to you. They're not responding to you attempting to arrange a pickup plan of some kind. That's the plot here. And it looks like maybe you've arranged for pickup, like you had a prior thought of a plan, but people fell off the moment that you landed. That's kind of the plot twist here. I'm seeing and feeling a lot of frustration from you. Trying to coordinate last minute plans has you like frankly pissed. Like I'm just feeling the energy behind it, feeling the disappointment. This could be quite literal for a few. Like you could have recently experienced issues with picking up at the airport, or that's upcoming. I don't know if some of you have trips planned. This could be quite literal, but I think it's more symbolic for most of you. It is showing me you have learned a skill, and the skill is to not rely on others through your experiences in some way. This could have very recently shifted for you. Like you were dependent on others and now you are more reliant on yourself. You stopped being reliant on others. Some of you, it's showing me you've always been a self-reliant system. There's never been any dependency. There's what looks like a separate message here. It is not a part of the collective energy because it's threading into something else that will deter from the main message. I don't think I'm ever going to get used to these hyper-specific pulls. They're pretty wild. So this really feels like a container coming through just because of how different it feels, just because of how hyper-specific. And so on that note, I shall be leaving a very specific message for some of you, not all of you. I'm going to leave it in the description and maybe I'll put it on screen if I'm feeling fancy and technical. You'll know that this separate message is for you if you feel hyper independence specifically, like either it has recently shifted for you, or maybe you've always just been super hyper independent. You maybe could have been the person who struggles to rely on others to pick you up, or just now you absolutely don't rely at all. I definitely see this being not asking for help type of message. If that resonates with you on any level, and this reading does as well, I have a very hyper specific message for you, and I believe you're part of a deeper collective. I will leave that for you. But at any rate, this collective reading is still for you. I just think that that one goes on its own little tangent down another path here. So we'll continue. Back to this collective reading, this main message. The collective here has a very strong person that is still seeking their signal out, romantic or otherwise. This keeps coming through. You could be feeling them doing that. It could be pulling on you, tugging on you. And it's not just like missing. That's not the vibes here. Although that might be here too for you. They could just feel they miss you, but that feels too superficial for what this is. I see this really being an energy of a shared world that was built between the both of you. And this person got very used to experiencing all of reality through. And this shared world, this thought form, this cloud, whatever term we want to use, it did crazy things. Like it amplified their reality for them. Like just boring, typical stuff I keep seeing was just so much more rich and fulfilling to them. And this person or you could have changed quite deeply from this connection because experiencing life through this thought form or this lens had such a strong pullback effect. So things like creativity could have been altered. Appearance could have been altered. Confidence could have changed dramatically. Their goals, their sense of humor, how they interacted with things. Things could have changed in or out of this. And this is a result of this lens use as a whole. And I kind of see that it could have shifted you in certain ways as well. Like Spirit is pointing at this thought form or this separate structure changed your view or perception on reality. I really see here, though, it's more that they were shifted from this than you. I definitely see you could have been, but it's not the same since you came from a higher timeline and you stayed in it thereafter. The shift isn't as distressing for you to return higher than to get set down lower. So the message here is that this person is struggling with their new reality experience, but it's more than just we understand the basic struggle of missing or superficial longing. It is the distress caused from being in a higher timeline and being dropped back down. There's a clear distinction here that Spirit wants you to see is usually people, the typical experience is like people stop talking and they miss the routine or the companionship or surface level things about them or doing activities. And that's all very normal, but this is more a fundamental collapse of a perceived reality. And so it gave them the ability to feel a higher timeline was even possible at all, because before you, they just never knew that that could even exist. They never even expected it to exist. They never expected the perspective of life to be so rich. And so the airport metaphor here is profound because Spirit is symbolically showing a high level of transitional spaces, particularly between identities. This person is clearly feeling they do not belong in their current reality. Now that they've had to step back down from a higher timeline, it just doesn't feel right. And so the message today is explaining this person is experiencing a higher level of grief than just losing you. They lost access to the space of belonging. They lost access to a higher timeline that made simple life experiences so much richer. So they are now what looks like back in the airport. They are trying to figure out where they belong in this transitional space. It was almost as if this relationship acted as a carrier for alternative states of self. You were carrying the potential of life that they never even would think that could exist. And they didn't even know it was existing as it was existing. They just felt much better. And so at one point, they could live in the airport without distress. I see that it didn't bother them, but you came and showed them that there was a better reality. And so now they're kind of stuck in the airport, if that makes sense. The big thing here is the distress state, this longing, this missing. They are trying to figure out where they belong specifically, how to even get a taste of this higher timeline again and get out of this airport transitional space. And they will remain in this airport space until they either descend into a lower frequency or they ascend back to where they felt they actually belonged and life felt richer, like it did with you. I see a lot here where the airport is causing a lot of distress. They haven't chosen yet and they are confused. Everything feels flat to them. They're pushing constructions of similar environments to feel alive like they experienced with you. And the confusing part is they're doing activities or independent things that weren't involved with you, like hobbies they had separate from you, but hobbies outside of your physical presence that they had independently, but they still can't experience that to the same degree they had with you, even though it was separate to your physical presence. And so that's confusing them, right? Because at least the things that they did with you make sense why that would feel flat is it's not with you, but these things are very clearly things they did separately, but with that thought form energy still elevating their experience. So in other words, it's a distinct feeling. They cannot recreate how they experience life, even in forms outside of you being physically present there. And that is very disorienting, very confusing to them. They're really emphasizing, they're looking at why does this separate thing that I didn't even do with this person feel flat, feel unfulfilling right now, especially when they're giving all their energy to set up the same exact environment to perform almost like experiments. And it's really because this thought form is gone. It collapsed. They don't simply just get access to a higher timeline without you. You were the bridge to taste that experience in the first place. And so if you're curious, I guess a lot is coming up here again about being a catalyst, about something that happens for you. It's a separate message. It has more to do with hyper independence, I feel, but it does focus on this idea of perhaps this pattern repeating where people are extremely changed in connections with you, whether that be you or them. There's a pattern here with that. There's a catalyst energy. Like you change a lot, they change a lot. There's a reason here. Spirit might want to uncover that with you, but only if it resonates, because again, this is separate to the collective energy. The biggest message here for the collective being this person simply cannot exist in the airport anymore and is experiencing a lot of distress because of this loss of structure. So they're living in this, trying to decide whether to descend or ascend, essentially. And it's taking a lot of time because what they're dealing with is very invisible. It's not clear. They're looking at performing experiments like, if I just recreate this, I'll feel this again. And it's because they cannot see this very metaphysical thing. It's not visible to them. So they're performing more practical experiments. So this might be a prolonged state of distress for them until something changes. Okay, this is not part of the reading. I'm just a heads up. I'm horrible at segues. I'm trying. I wanted to talk about something kind of silly today, even though this reading is, I just wanted to talk about like a hidden part of being an energy reader that I think a lot of you would be really keenly interested in. There's a lot of things coming from your guys' energy that I'm noticing more and more as my audience grows, and I'm getting into these deeper layers with my collective in memberships. And so I feel like I want to share something that's like fun that you would never know, because you would only know if you're an energy reader. And anyway, I guess my goal in life is to say crazy stuff to you guys so it plants things in your brain that stick forever. And, you know, a decade from now, you think back and you're like, oh yeah, that weird reader on YouTube totally blew my mind. And that's me. I'm that weird reader on YouTube that totally blew your mind. Okay, so fun fact. As an energy reader, a really funny experience that happens that I come across a lot is people who can read energy are very obvious to me. And that might not be surprising to some of you, as you probably hear that from a lot of readers or channelers, is mediums can kind of pick it up and then they talk about it openly. But something funny that you wouldn't think happens is an energy reader, when they feel that connection, when they feel someone is more in tune, is tapped in, they can feel attracted to that. That's a common experience. And so deeper attraction sometimes exists between two gifted people, which again, might not sound that far off base. You can kind of hear people with similar wavelengths would stick out more and they would magnetize to each other, right? And so just what I've noticed a lot is I see very gifted people being pulled towards very gifted people. It's very common. And so attraction on some level is sometimes about this ability. It's being reflected back to you. And so why am I saying this? I'm saying this because energy readers find other energy readers, even if they don't even know they're doing it, even if they don't even know they're an energy reader or more tapped in, I suppose. And what I'm getting at here is, how do I say this without coming off in a weird way, is a lot of y'all have crushes on me. And I feel that from what you sent to me, which is just like, it's just endearing to me. Nothing weird. But it's funny because some of you, it exposes your ability to read or be tapped in simply by being attracted to me in this way. Being attracted or pulled towards me is sometimes simply mirroring the same tapped in energy or gift that you have to yourself. And so I just wanted to tell you that, not to be weird about it. And I'm also certainly not saying that you have to have a crush on me to be tapped in. In fact, you could just be simply drawn to me as a reader. You don't have to have a crush. But yeah, if you have a little crush on me, I'm here to tell you, you might be more gifted than you think. You might be more tapped in than you think. And of course, not to say that those who are not crushing on me are fundamentally not gifted. I do not want you to hear that. A crush is more of expelling process of energy in a way. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. Energy readers are particularly drawn to each other, especially tapped in. You'll find you are attracted to more tapped in individuals. And a huge way that energy expels is through crush-like emotions. It doesn't have to be. Usually that's just a bigger indicator that more energy exists that needs to be expelled too. There's different parts of this. So just wanted to say that I love you guys. Crush or no crush, I just love you. Simply, period, point of fact, end of story, Finn. And I'm so thankful you are all here. I could never adequately express my love and devotion and how thankful I am. So cheers, friends.